Hey,
Hello, Konstantin.
hi.
Hi. There's also Salvatore.
I could hear that. Hi.
601.
Yeah.
It's cold in Berlin.
It's horrible. Ever since Natalie left Berlin, it's been raining and cold and really miserable.
I will bring back some sun from here.
Yeah,
There's plenty.
yeah. I can I mean I can hear you well, but there's quite an echo in your space.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you really well. Is the echo better now or is
Yeah,
still?
I think it's better. Maybe it was more when like Salvat maybe you're closer to the microphone. Maybe that's better than when I heard Salvatore speak. It was from far.
Okay,
But
yeah.
it's fine. It's fine.
If we have questions from the people, they can just come forward and
Yeah.
speak directly into the microphone.
Good.
Yes,
So
we can start. So I'm going to start with just sharing some pictures. So first, yeah, welcome to Made Labs, the talk and discussion with Konstantin Grcic, with Konstantin and myself, Natalie Opres. I work at Konstantin Grcic's studio. We have a workshop here in Syracuse, Italy, in the framework of the Made Labs. And it is about sport and design and exhibitions, exhibition making, curating, designing. So it's basically a whole complex of things that we are talking about. But we are really happy to have Konstantin here to tell us something about his or your way of exhibition making. And maybe it's a nice thing to start with a project that you were involved with here in Sicily, starting in 2005, and that opened in 2008. And Konstantin, maybe you're kind of surprised to see that, but it's nice to have this local context here because it was such a nice project that happened here, and you have a strong relationship to Italy as well in this sense. And so maybe just quickly, I mean, your oeuvre as an industrial designer is quite clear. But what interests us is actually your exhibition making. And so we talked a lot about match design and sport, about the future of sport and design that we curated and designed at the studio. But there's a whole history of exhibitions that you were involved in, and that you partially curated, you conceived, but also designed. Among others, the New Normals exhibition in 2022 that was in Berlin, but also Design Real in the Serpentine Gallery in 2009. Black and Square, which is an exhibition where also Salvatore played a role in. Yeah, so maybe, yeah, enough of introduction. Maybe it's just nice to hear from you. How do you perceive exhibition making? How do you deal with space and understand working with space?
Yeah. Natalie, thank you for your introduction, and hello to everyone. And please, maybe before I answer, can you turn the camera in such a way that I get a feeling of who there is and how I can see some people in this. Okay, so nice space, really nice. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so happy to meet you all. Unfortunately, on the screen only, but that's the way it is. So, speaking about exhibitions, it was something that really that has established itself as I'd say, really quite a solid or continuous column in the office. That means of the kind of work we do. As Natalie said, our main work is working for companies designing and developing products that go into industrial production, mainly furniture, lighting, those kind of things. It was in the early 90s, so a long time ago. I'm in business for 30 something years, and really at the very beginning of my career, when I was young, I had the fortune to meet a company by the name of Authentics. They made plastic household products. They were based in Germany. We met, we started to work together between the owner of that company, Hans-Jörg Meyer-Eichen, and me. We quickly built a very nice kind of friendship, a relationship that was much more than just a working relationship. And it was through him, Hans-Jörg Meyer-Eichen, the owner of Authentics, and that little company that I kind of stumbled into my first exhibition projects, because Meyer-Eichen asked me to produce an exhibition for the company during the Salone Mobile in Milan, Fuori Salone, and you can imagine, or maybe you cannot imagine, how 30 years ago that was a very small kind of program of events. From my point of view, much nicer then than it is today, but it was anyway, it was during the furniture fair, it was in Milan, it was the great kind of the moment of, what seemed like the whole world of design is coming together. So there was whatever exhibition or presentation had a big stage. The very first exhibitions we did for Authentics were something like maybe between 60 and 100 square meters in size. It was basically a space. The first ones were a kind of fashion shop on Via Garibaldi, that they cleared all the shop and gave us the space. We came with a small kind of truck or van load of stuff, set up the exhibition overnight, and then it ran for 5 days. I'm telling you this because exhibitions, and even at a larger scale, they are, of course, they're about the content. What is the exhibition about? How do I show and, I don't know, talk about what I show? But it's also about a certain kind of logistics, technical aspects. The space, the time frame, budget really play a big part in exhibition making. And it's very crucial because exhibitions, they open at an exact day. So you have to work to an exact deadline. These very first exhibitions, they were kind of naive, and from a point of view of, when I look back at them today, they had an incredible kind of lightness of being just what they were with no means. Again, 30 years ago, this was before internet, before social media, before digital photography even. Things were not, certain tools weren't there. Communication was kind of by phone or fax. And I don't know, that was quite limiting, of course, but limitations also, they always kind of challenge creativity and, making the most out of nothing. So this is kind of how it started, and I just realized how much I enjoyed this kind of work. unlike industrial design, which sometimes takes forever and takes for a long time, and there's never really the sensation of coming to an end. With exhibition design, there's a clear kind of planning period, and then the opening, and then the celebration of the exhibition, and maybe a 5-day or 3 month period of when you can actually be witness of that exhibition, of people going to the exhibition, and how do people kind of experience and use the exhibition? Do they follow the ideas that maybe we had in the conception of the idea, or do they kind of, or does it work? Does it not work? In a way, the same in industrial design. I want the products we design to be used more or less in the way that we anticipate, but I can never be the witness of that situation. In an exhibition, it's a much more direct kind of experience for us as exhibition makers. We can really see it either working or not working, and the psychology of the exhibition, the space you come in. How do you navigate through the space? What may be kind of informations you had before entering the exhibition, preconceptions, and what do you experience actually being in the exhibition? Is the exhibition so much better than you thought? Is it something unexpected? Is it actually really boring or entertaining? Do you go into much detail of what you see, or do you do a very quick kind of scan and leave? And what is it that you take out of the exhibition? What is it that you kind of go home with? And these kind of different scenarios and different visitor profiles, the one who's really quick in, out, or the other one who maybe spends half an hour. Both visitors are are super important, and both visitors are very normal visitors. And in exhibition making, we have to kind of cater for both, and many more. So exhibitions have to work on many different levels, including nowadays, very important, producing images that maybe, if allowed, people will photograph, and these images travel, and so on. And probably, my answer is getting much longer than what you thought, Natalie. I'm sorry. Let me come to the kind of the kind of brief conclusion that really, starting from those very small projects that really just came to me more or less through this one particular company or client, I have kind of cultivated exhibition making throughout the last decades. And I mean, it's not something in the office, we don't constantly work on exhibitions, but in nice waves, we nowadays get projects that keep us working in this field. The best exhibitions are those that deal with a topic or a subject that is not our own. Sometimes we also make exhibitions about our own work, and that's difficult. Making exhibitions about a subject matter that is outside the cosmos of our own work is so much more interesting, because it's an invitation to kind of to dive into material, into knowledge, into our own discoveries. With sports, it was kind of halfway. Sports is something that I'm not a great athlete. I'm not a kind of intense, active sports person, but I've always kind of followed sports. I've always been interested in that world of sports, be it the kind of the athletes and their stories, or the equipment or the gear. And I think this is sometimes I've said in past that sports and sports equipment was my first design teacher. I learned a lot from looking at sports equipment. Sports equipment is they're tools. They're all about performance. Form follows function, probably. But they also have a psychological kind of level to it. And that's through the graphics, the paint, something that is not just the pure form following function. And I think this is something that we got excited about in doing the exhibition. Now, sorry, Natalie.
No, absolutely, absolutely. It's actually a very good link to what we did with the group this morning. We went to the Siracusa Stadium, and yeah, we looked at all that fan culture. We looked at, for example, Angelo, the friend of Nicolo, who's organizing everything around the stadium. He was telling us that, for example, the block of the ultras was named after a mother of one of the ultras. So it's like so personal, everything. And there's a lot of fan art. There's a lot of like lucky charms around and portraits of players. So yes, this psychological and personal component of sports is so important and acts as a kind of a social glue in the whole sector. And I agree that this was one of the most exciting things to actually think about and explore during the exhibition making of Match. But yeah, also this technological aspect that we also were diving into big time was playing a huge role. But like the conclusions from Match, yeah, that sport should be for everyone, and like the design examples that we found for that were just so interesting to see. Also,
The
how
last, maybe you've showed images of the exhibition in Paris. The last image, at the very end of the exhibition, we had a big billboard saying that the practice of sports is a human right. And this is actually a quote from the Olympic Charter. And we felt it was such a strong claim, a human right, the practice of sport, because the practice of sport is, it's gives choice to people. It's a social activity. It's it's a healthy activity, and something really very very like essential to life. It's important, and you don't have to be a pro athlete. Anyone at any level can participate in it in whatever way.
I also found that what was super interesting, I also showed pictures of some objects from the Match exhibition, and that was this juxtaposition of the fencing grip that was 3D printed from metal. It's like ultra light, ultra customized, and then we juxtaposed it with these tennis table tennis rackets. They are so low tech, and still like this kind of item is actually, it stands really for this scene of people and for the accessibility of sport, and the way that it is kind of creating a safe space for people to interact also and to connect in a social sphere.
I mean, a ball, any kind of ball, I mean, it's one of the first things that babies play with and discover, the magic, the fascination of a ball rolling, bouncing, a ball that can hardly hurt anyone, and a ball that can be made out of nothing, up to all the specifications. We had a display of different sports balls, different types of balls made of different materials to different regulations for specific sports and so on. But it can be really nothing, the poorest thing, and still work, or the super sophisticated. I mean, we had a 3D printed basketball in the exhibition by Wilson, a new development, kind of questionable whether it needs that. Why why do we need a 3D printed basketball if a basketball in the classic sense is a kind of a kind of balloon filled with air and fantastic, it works, and so on. But yeah, I mean, the exhibition in in Paris, Natalie, if you remember I mean, how do you start an exhibition like that? It was quite you know, the expectation was probably quite high, or the theme was quite a big theme, design and sport, and looking into the future and coinciding with the Olympic Summer Games. Um, um, I think the exhibition could have taken on very many different kind of
Storylines. Yeah.
forms, and we have chosen, and I think this is you know, the role of a curator is to be between, you know, collecting all the information there is about a topic, being the sponge to to kind of you know, collect and accumulate all sorts of material, information, then to kind of to create some form of organization of that information, be selective, analyzing it. But there's still, and I hope Salvatore would agree, because Salvatore, you are in so many you know, ways a curator, a professional curator. A curator is and should be someone who also puts in a very subjective point of view, a point of view. So it's not just an exhibition about all the things we can all agree on. Um, when I go to an exhibition, I am interested in who is it, who was the curator, and I expect the curator to give me a point of view, and also to have an opinion. And so Natalie and myself, that's what we had to kind of find, you know, is something you have to develop. Most of the times you have to develop what opinion would be ours. What are the things that we, amongst all the possibilities, all the interesting stuff, where do we set priorities? What do we give space to? And what's the narrative that we create out of all of this?
Mm.
In retrospect, I think what we did was, it's terrible to say that, but I think it turned out really well. And how we arrived there, I couldn't recall. There's so many decisions throughout the process that, you know, many of them are rational, many of them are subjective, intuition, kind of maybe on a sunny day I go for this, and on the rainy day I would have decided differently. So all of these things come together, but I mean, being two, Natalie and myself, helps. You have a kind of partner to kind of discuss things with. Um, I think there was an element of the sports design exhibition that was going more in the social, on the social topic, the social kind of fringe of it, which would have been even more interesting. And I think I was the one who sometimes kind of pulled you back, Natalie, saying, it is, in the end, it is a design exhibition, and we are trying to do an exhibition for a very broad audience, an audience that, you know, we, you know, we have to, you know, never underestimate your audience, but I think also, I think we can't, you know, overwhelm an audience with super specific kind of knowledge. But I think the why I think that in the end, our choice of themes and the way we put them in the exhibition, why I feel it worked is because I think most people would have probably entered the exhibition thinking it's going to be an exhibition about designed products, sports equipment. And they came out with, hopefully, I think, a very broad idea of, well, that sports and design is so much more than just the designing, the creation of these pieces of equipment. It kind of goes into all sorts of other areas of our life, of the sports industry, kind of, uh, well, it has many more layers that, I'm sure Natalie will be discussing with you during the next days, because it's interesting. Um,
Yeah, they're like really classic ways of making an exhibition, which like we talked about it, like chronological or something, which is like, yeah, they always turn out the same, this kind of exhibitions. And so what I really appreciated, and it actually also reflected in the scenography of the show, was also in a narrative way. We were like meandering from topic to topic, and also from space to space, because yeah, so the floor plan would generally have kind of, if you would have made it simple, you could have just gone through the first space and then to the second space. But instead, we decided to do like to go from the first space to the second and back into the first, and then back into the large space to then yeah, finalize the route through the
mm,
exit. But so this was also something that really unfolded in the narrative, like going from
yeah,
this first image of the athlete at the center and
mm,
like as kind of a role model, as a kind of a superhero heroine, towards like then through the context of it, like architecture. And what is architecture? Also, it's the place where everyone gathers. So then we were talking about the social implications. So somehow it just really organically unfolded,
mm,
to become a story that people could follow, and it was not compartmentalized so much into like thematic complexes, but rather just very associative, like very much, yeah, kind of introducing one topic through the other. And yeah, I think that was really something that worked well in the case of Match. And
yeah, it's kind of, I mean, exhibitions. Most exhibitions have these kind of, I mean, first of all, an exhibition is an experience. An exhibition takes place in a physical form. It's a space where the exhibition happens, or spaces, um, and also the exhibits themselves. The work is a lot of it is physical, and I would strongly claim that even in future with more media and it is still except the what sets an exhibition apart from consuming content through other channels is the physical presence. Have you you know ever seen a certain painting in real, or do you only know it from books or your computer screen? It makes a difference. And I think all exhibitions need these kind of very physical and amazing exhibits. I think Natalie and I, in the debriefing at the exhibition in Paris, we said we had some amazing exhibits, and probably our mistake was not to put them on an even bigger plinth, celebrating them even more, because and in the exhibition making, sometimes we are too modest, or we think, but everything is so important. For visitors and the kind of let's say the general reading of an exhibition, it's kind of quite important to create these kind of anchor points of some really amazing pieces that you you place in the exhibition and actually show them in that way. Exhibitions can be, in Paris, we chose the exhibition to have a parcours. There was a beginning and an end. So we controlled exactly the sequence of how people would more or less see the work. Other exhibitions work differently. You just enter a space and you decide to go left or right or straight ahead. Other exhibitions take place in different spaces. You meander around. The most control you have when you set the parcours. And this is what I talked about before, is this kind of as a curator, your communication and interaction with the visitor. I mean, basically in an exhibition that has a very linear kind of structure of beginning and end, you more or less take the visitor, by your hand, and you walk through them through the exhibition together. That brings me to the topic of text. Text in an exhibition there's always text, and probably the statistics would say that a majority of people don't read any of the text in an exhibition. But I think, first of all, the text is a form of saying a lot and very precise in a very concise way. So I think text in the exhibition is super important. But how the text is written, the language, the length, even the typeface and the font size, all of those things, how accessible do you make text in an exhibition is, I mean, is important. And as addressed to you, think about it carefully. I feel the kind of very classic format. A text is where I expect the text to be. The text is very legible, is easy. That's the better way than kind of experimenting with text in an exhibition. It's kind of, no, I want to look at the work and not kind of be on the hunt for text. So in Paris we had 3 levels of text. I think it was a kind of like a theme text. Of course, there was an opening text to the exhibition. Then there was, for certain spaces or clusters of work, we had a text explaining the kind of thoughts we had, something that we wanted to give, that for us was important that people would not miss. Now I think I'm mixing it up. Then we had the curator's voice that said that was us really speaking very directly to the visitors, as if you had an audio guide on your with you, and we are actually speaking to visitors. So that's on a different level to the one explaining the general kind of the important terms. The kind of the personal voice can tell other stories and tell them in a different language. And then there was what we called experts' voice. That was where we ask people, experts of the theme of the topic, to or we borrowed certain quotes or texts from them, to have their voice in the exhibition, because I mean they are the ones who know best about certain things. And then we had this the billboard level of in the exhibition of what I just quoted, the Olympic Charter, the practice of sports as a human right. We had Serena Williams, Mario Andretti,
Yeah.
different people, kind of with big kind of billboard simple claims in the
Even
exhibition.
Murakami, we had Haruki Murakami.
Murakami.
Yeah.
And of course, another text label I forgot, and that's an essential one, is the label itself. I I'm sure you've all experienced these different formats of, normally you have a piece of work and next to it, to the right or to the left, is a label, the label giving you the kind of very short, precise rundown of mainly technical information, the year of creation, the artist, material, and so on. We wanted the label to be more important. We made labels that were completely oversized A3 format. And at the center of the label, we put in very big letters, we put the year of the creation in order to put things, just because sports is a very fast moving industry, and therefore, something from 3 years ago, well, it is from 3 years ago. And therefore we thought that the kind of the timeline, that the date really mattered in the understanding of what am I looking at. And since we didn't do the exhibition chronologically, it was quite good, or we thought it was really nice to put this kind of the time at a very exposed level, and something that you'd see very quite immediately. Is it something historical? Is it 10 years ago, 3 years ago, or is it of today? It's 2024. That was last year. That was the newest stuff in the exhibition.
Yeah, totally. Also, this, the like comparison of sometimes we just paired kind of exhibits that were like, one was really old and the other one was kind of something super recent, and to see how a vision of a potential future as seen from the past would kind of match something that was really contemporary. That was like a super interesting thing that we wanted to mediate as well to the public in that sense. Yeah.
Any of the old things we showed in the exhibition, historical things, we showed not to say, way back, that's what they did. We didn't, the evolution of certain things didn't really interest us. That could have been an entire exhibition just showing how a running shoe or a football shoe developed over the years. We said, if we show a historical thing, then because at the time this thing came out on the market or into the world of sports, it was a game changer. It was something absolutely extraordinary. So the subtitle of the exhibition of looking into the future also applied to the old things we showed. The old things were already ahead of their time, and they were still amazing in an exhibition as ours last year, 2024.
I was also thinking about this bicycle that we had in the first space. There was a bicycle that had this very weird like handlebar, because the designer was thinking actually that it would help in terms of kind of suspension. It would like make it easier to ride this bicycle. But so the fun part was also to show these fringe objects that actually never were developed further, because then with this invention you like try it out and you just notice, okay, it's not going to do the job that was imagined. But still, like, just this conceptual process that happened in this past, to illustrate that, and to illustrate how humans come up with innovation, and you have to make so many errors until you get to a point where it's actual innovation and it's actually gonna kind of develop further into a new product, or
you probably mentioned that we are currently working on another exhibition related to sport and design for the Triennale in Milano, coinciding with the Winter Olympics, Milano Cortina, in early next year. And in that exhibition, we are showing, which is much more even more a design exhibition than the one in Paris, because it's a design museum, the Triennale, and we want to really, focus very strongly on design. in that exhibition, we are showing very futuristic ideas that failures, but being the failures, they still form part of the story that maybe 30 years later, these things are picked up again, and then developed further. Last week, Natalie and I were in the Montebelluna area, north of Vicenza, in the area where lots of the kind of most innovative companies are located, making any kind of shoe for sports, namely ski boots, climbing shoes, and so on. And this area has a local museum with collecting examples, prototypes, samples of these kind of industries, shoes from the past. And we heard from the people working in these companies today, they keep on going to that museum to study the old shoes, not for nostalgia, but because a long history in certain times, it's always been very, very fresh, new, amazing ideas. And they're still, when you see them today, they're still as amazing as they were back then. And maybe today, you can add just another little thing to it, or technology has advanced in such a way that something that was almost not feasible 60 years ago now could be a really good product. History is super important. Now I'm kind of sidetracking a little bit, but I mean, you know, uh, d- what am I trying to say? That as designers, of course, we work in today's kind of world and always looking ahead, but we do need to know the past. We can learn so much from the past, and that kind of the knowledge of the past is not in awe. It's not in kind of, yes, it's out of respect, but not, but it's more about the understanding and the learning and taking, you know, picking up on something that was there and taking it further. And now this applies to you as designers of, let's say, products, but also to you as curators or people creating exhibitions. Telling a story of today also includes, the kind of the knowledge, the awareness, the notion of what has already, where does that come from? So I think the exhibitions that I love are those that kind of that offer all of this in some form. It's not the boring exhibitions are those that are very kind of one-dimensional. There's one kind of thing and one pattern of how it is exhibited. And yeah, maybe that can also be interesting and an occasion to see certain things in real. As I said, the importance of the original physical thing, but exhibitions are, it's still such an amazing format of, a format of communication, of learning, of being entertained, and the kind of the tools of exhibiting things, the tools for telling stories, presenting things, and guiding visitors into something unknown, discoveries, and so on. They are manifold. There's so many ways. Now we have all the digital media. Yes, it can be physical. It can be super simple. It can be highly complex. It can be linear, and all mixed up. Really, when you work on your concepts now in the following days, I mean, be really open to, try don't be preconceived about what you think an exhibition should be. Develop the idea of an exhibition, following your kind of your understanding of how that should be with the kind of the work, the theme that you have in hand and what you want to communicate. What would be the best way to show it, to communicate it? I think it sounds extremely simple, and in a way it is, but we always have to kind of keep reminding ourselves of that, sort of asking really simple questions, and being, the most dangerous is any form of routine. Yeah, some, it always works like that, so we do it like that. No, think about it. Maybe you come to the same conclusion of a white plinth and the thing on top of it. And that's a classic format. Nothing to be said against that. Sometimes it's the best still. But think about all the different elements that make the exhibition be an exhibition and make the visitor of the exhibition, become part of the exhibition and really get the full experience.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also, I think also about what's an interesting and important thing to follow when making exhibitions is like to be sure about what you want to exhibit in a way that the selection process needs to have quite a, in a way, strict kind of set of rules, like by which you always like choose the exhibit, and you always say like, okay, is this design or is it something else? Do I need this kind of content? Yeah, does it play a role? Does it really still play into the narrative? Because like while researching and defining like what you exhibit, I think very often you kind of get distracted by stories that are interesting indeed, but then if you just include everything, you're just gonna water it down. It's not gonna be a clear message. And then like actually it's also very hard part of it is like kicking out the darlings, basically, the things that you think, but this is like, so it would be so nice to have it in the show, but like after all, the revision process is actually what, or the distillation of a narrative happens through this kind of process of kicking things out again, after you collected a whole pool of things. And that's curating, basically. Like,
I agree. And I mean, usually we have to, go through rounds and rounds and rounds of kind of selection, taking things out, taking things out. You have to be extremely careful. It could be one thing one thing you take out and the whole thing collapses. Having said that, it's not, like I said, there's no formula, and you can do exactly the opposite and say an exhibition is about everything, anything, like a kind of Wunderkammer idea of, you bring people to a space which is just like a flea market. It's full of stuff, and most people enjoy flea markets because you start to become an adventurer. You develop certain kind of senses, instincts for discovering, finding things. An exhibition can change formats. You can be a super strict, kind of selective, precise section of the exhibition, and then you enter a Wunderkammer and you come out of it again and have something else. That's the fuss. The great thing about exhibitions. It really, I mean, it in principle, you can do what you want. Of course, like I said at the beginning, the space, the budget, the timeline, the subject, the theme play part in it. But there's no, there's no preconception as to how an exhibition about a certain theme has to be. I feel.
Yeah. Yes. Salvatore has a question.
Konstantin, I wanted to simply ask you. So first of all, thank you for this, for all your generosity and all the things you said today. I wanted to ask you about the exhibition Design Real. Was that a commission or you came with the concept? Because in the case of the show in Paris of sport, I guess it was someone asking you to develop the theme and then you had to navigate it and make your own decisions. But if I remember well, Design Real was your concept, or was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was my concept. It was an exhibition at the Serpentine Gallery. I don't remember when, some long time ago, and the briefing was very, very open. It was clear that it was not an exhibition about my work, but it was an exhibition about me being a designer making an exhibition. Therefore, I think I thought it should be an exhibition about design rather than art. I chose to show real design products, kind of really heavy, the very mass-produced design products. I put them on a plinth or I elevated them as if they were pieces of art almost. I think it was it was what I came up with, and we did it. I was not happy with the result, I have to say. And the exhibition that Salvatore we did together, the Black Square, was I think a year later, and that in a way was my kind of how should I say, my washing of I was so unhappy with the Serpentine. And I remember that during my frustration with the Serpentine, while still working on it, but it was too late to change a concept then. I had the idea, it came to me, why not do something much, much, much more simple? And I came up with the idea of the Black Square exhibition, which is basically to say that the black square shape or geometry is something entirely man-made. Nature doesn't produce this. Nature produces all sorts of shapes and forms, and I mean, not everything in nature is organic, and there are also crystals, but a crystal is never square. And the black maybe is also something kind of quite special. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to just take such a simple formula and then just explore, just based on a very simple idea, explore what there is. And so my memory of one of the great exhibition projects I've done in my past is the one at Istituto Svizzero in Rome, with you, Salvatore. Do you remember when that was? I was at the Villa Massimo at the time.
Yeah, it opened 2010.
Yeah, 2010, so
yeah.
15 years ago.
It was World Championship in
South African World Championship in the Galoppatoio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
it's so well.
I had a scholarship at the Villa Massimo at that time. So I was in Rome. I could, we could have conversations about this idea of the exhibition, and it was a great thing. That was um, one of the really nice exhibitions, which I think was a really good design exhibition. But it was much more than a design exhibition. I mean, in a way, it also made a link to the fine arts that the Serpentine didn't manage to make, because I mean, Malevich Black Square is, claimed to be the turning point or the beginning of contemporary art, this level of abstraction, and so on. So even that was a kind of, we played a little bit even with that, and it was maybe the learning from that is, don't be afraid of a very simple idea. A simple idea can be extremely strong. Complicated ideas may always stay complicated. Vico Magistretti, who was one of my teachers at the Royal College of Art, said his famous kind of saying, also to us as students: test your ideas by trying if you can kind of communicate an idea about a project over the phone. Over the phone means, and at that time there was no kind of video call. So over the phone means I'm talking to you, but I cannot see you, you cannot see me. So it's just language. And the phone call at that time cost money. So it was a kind of short form of conversation. So in 3 sentences, what is it that you want to do? It's a very simple exercise, and you will kind of, I mean, you can also play a game and test it with your colleagues, but try to see if you can you break it down to just a few sentences that the receiver will go away and think, great, understood.
Yeah. Do you have questions? Yes. Do you want to come forward a little bit?
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering a bit about the process, because obviously you said it's one of the most important things is to know what you want to say. Is that something that you already know at the start, or is it something that comes like as you evolve, like in the process?
It comes in the process, and I never know what I want at the start of a project, not in industrial design, nor in exhibitions. But you have to have some form of, I mean, a straw to hold on to. Something, as fragile and small it may be, something to hold on to, something to make you make that first step. Having no idea and sitting in front of a white piece of paper and it could go anywhere, it will usually go nowhere. So push yourself to make a first, walk in whatever direction. And it really is something that also I was told when I was a student, and I couldn't believe it, or it made me almost upset. Someone telling me, it doesn't matter what you do, just start doing it. I feel now, with more than 30 years of practice, yeah, that person in a way was right. It doesn't matter so much where you start, because along the way, you take so many decisions that are quite a reliable corrective. So if you set off in the completely wrong direction on those first meters, you will soon understand that it was the wrong direction, and you walk somewhere else. The kind of the biggest problem is this kind of what then will turn into a form of writer's block of just sitting there, not getting not getting started, because then your brain usually starts to go crazy, because then, I could do this, but oh no, maybe not, maybe I should do, dangerous. Uh, so sort of kind of you have to um, just trick yourself when you're in a situation like that. When you're in the kind of dead end road, you have to trick yourself to get out of it and do what gets you moving again. Action, activity is a great. I mean, it's a good kind of recipe. You know, thinking, the making process, producing something, whatever, and producing, something of even no value is a form of thinking process. And then by the end of it, oh, no value. So since I've done that, I do the next thing. This kind of stagnation, not doing anything, not getting started, that's the most dangerous thing. And you should all try to kind of find and it's a very personal thing, your own personal way of getting out of those situations, tricking yourself out of this. Yeah. I have no ideas. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And like I said, in those situations, I don't have a great idea. No, but you may have a very simple idea, a very, very simple idea. Get started on that. It helps. And very often you find out that the simple idea is a lot more challenging and complex than you thought. And it becomes more and more and more interesting than you thought. Whereas the kind of the crazy sounding, amazing ideas, they often turn out quite, well, yeah, it sounded amazing, but a lot of hot air in the end.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Actually, I have a question tied to this, yeah, wanting to simplify things or to make things more accessible, also in a kind of democratic way for everyone. I'm really interested in this topic, but I see sometimes museums or exhibitions hiding behind these big words or these big texts and whatnot. So I'm sometimes wondering if that is expected. And how is your relationship with, in terms of communication with these institutions? And how do you value the simplifying, this process of simplification? If that is a question that makes sense.
I think I know what you mean. I think you're right. Institutions are sometimes kind of intimidating, and a lot of people don't go to museums because they feel museums are for all the others, but not for me. And I feel intimidated. I mean, there are forms of exhibition that take place just in the street, in public, and you're free to choose, do your exhibition outside these big walls, and in the street, if that kind of if that's possible, and if that fits the topic. The institution that is difficult, I agree, still has a value, though. It's very important that we, the kind of as societies, we do have these cultural institutions. They take on a very important role for the kind of the cultural. Well, a lot of it is heritage, but also contemporary culture, and so I think if it's a too complicated answer, but if what you for this project you're working on this week, if you feel it it shouldn't be institutionalized, or it shouldn't be an exhibition, have to enter, probably even buy a ticket, have to read text, invent a different format of exhibition that is in the street, and why not? I think you're free to do that, and believe me, institutions and museums and museum people, they learn from that. They are aware of the problem with their houses and their types of exhibitions, and they're learning from artists and kind of people making completely different types of exhibitions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think yeah, we're already 5 minutes over the scheduled time. So if someone has like something super urgent to ask about, then go ahead. But I think yeah, this was very like insightful and I think really precious input for us as a group here. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. I mean, very happy to do this, and it was very nice. This particular format, I think we Natalie and I, we spoke about, what kind of format should this be. I'm happy we did it this way as a conversation rather than a kind of a lecture. I'm sorry, I will not. I would love to see what you really do, or I'd be super interested in coming in halfway and seeing, the ideas in the making. Yeah, Natalie will show me what comes out. I wish you all the best, and have a great time. Enjoy it. I mean, it's a very special format. You're in a beautiful place. You have a fantastic, I don't know, fantastic environment to just work. But I mean, work hard.
Yeah, that's a good
Use that time. I mean, use having Natalie there with you and all the other designers and colleagues and Salvatore and everyone, workshops, and I mean, use that. It's precious. Get the most out of it. So good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tschüss.
Ciao.
Ciao.